in the novella itself, there are actually 3 wardens. And I think that part of the genius of Frank's script is that he collapsed those 3 wardens into one individual. And I think it really gives the screenplay more of a kind of mythic quality to it.
Our inmates, properly supervised, will be put to work outside these walls, performing all manner of public service.
Because King is a man of his period, of his generation, the worst villain of that generation is Nixon. And you get that with Bob Gunton in this, who is explicitly Nixonian.
Nothing stops. Nothing. Well, you will do the hardest time there is. No more protection from the guards. I'll pull you out of that one bunk Hilton and cast you down with the sodomites. You'll think you've been fucked by a train.
We're supposed to be icons. We're supposed to be the worst of the worst. And Andy is the best of the best. We personify whatever we need to personify.
What are you Jimmy staring at? Back to work! Let's go, work!
It's the Joseph Campbell mythic hero who rides into town. The stranger rides out of the desert, cleans up the town, and rides away. Sets things right, you know. Well, that's what Andy does in Stephen King's story. Not just changes the environment, but also fundamentally changes his friend, Red, by their friendship.
It would make me sound smarter if I said that we, analyzed it and we were afraid, because we should have probably, but I think that the emotion we all felt for the script kind of overwhelmed it.
Imagine reading a plot synopsis of this, because a plot synopsis of the movie would be terrible. It would just be 2 people in prison in the 40s, and what happens to them. Because you can't really summarize up the feeling of hope that you get from watching the film.
We did all say to ourselves, the only way this movie is going to find an audience is if it's unbelievably well executed. And if it's medium, we're sunk.
Shawshank is without the slightest doubt my favorite movie of all time. I can watch it over and over and never tire.
Hope truly springs eternal.
I think it's a wonderful life for our generation.
Although The Shawshank Redemption was set, like so much of Stephen King's writing, in the heavenly surroundings of Maine, New England, Frank Darabont and his crew would set up shop here at the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, which, along with some imposing cell block sets by designer Terrence Marsh, would form an awe-inspiring backdrop for the drama. Opening its doors to young offenders in the late 19th century, this looming landmark was in the prison business for nearly 100 years, incarcerating its inmates in an environment which was 1 part cathedral to 2 parts Castle of Frankenstein, the perfect setting, in fact, for a tale of spiritual salvation based on a text by a master of horror. As Warden Samuel Norton says, I believe in 2 things.
Discipline and the Bible. Here you'll receive both. Put your trust in the Lord. Your ass belongs to me. Welcome to Shawshank.
If you had a scene in that prison, you felt in your pores the weight of that place, and it was like a character looming in every scene.
We had this kind of tour, so you could see it fully, even the condemned parts of the prison we went into, and looked at these really tiny little cages that they kept those men in. And I always have a visceral reaction to being inside a real prison. When I hear the door close behind me, I have this twinge of realization that they could decide not to open it again,
I remember walking into this cell block with my son, who was about 3 or 4 at the time, and he said, Daddy, I don't want to be here. I said, why not? He says, this is a really sad place. And he could feel just this incredible weight of many years of pain and suffering that had gone on in this place. And it was palpable. You could really sense it.
All prisoners, return to your cell blocks.
The architect's name was Levi Schofield, and he had traveled extensively in Europe. He was from the Cleveland area, north of here, and it is kind of an odd mixture of architectural styles. It's not something that happens very often. It's Richardsonian Romanesque and Chateau-esque, and then there's also the Gothic overtones on the interior. all of which are to remind a person of the religious backgrounds, religious overtones, which was all part of the whole idea of a reformatory.
So the building is specifically designed to sort of, you know, to lift
draw your
thoughts
eyes
to the heavens.
to draw your eyes skyward. That was why we were the logical place to film it too. There are no other architectural styles exactly like this mixture. And it might have just been all things put together, that it was a great film, it had great actors, but they had a great place that they could film it too.
It had a theatrical quality, which I loved, because, I mean, to accent anything, you've got to go with the top a little bit. And the Gothic quality was what attracted me.
This room is actually called the bullpen. This is one room that inmates did pass through on a daily basis, but this is also a room that had a lot of exposure in the movie. Okay. If you look here along the floor, you can see what's left of a yellow line that runs across here.
Yeah.
That is where early in the film, when Andy and the new fish all arrive at the prison, they line up together and they're shackled, and the warden comes to talk to them about what to expect in his prison. The warden is standing right out there in the middle of the room.
Unhook him.
I was here in 1987. I had been stealing to supply my drug habit. And very similar to the fresh fish scene where Red said, the worst night is the first night. It truly was here.
I remember my first night. Seems like a long time ago.
A fish.
Where we're at now, this was the second floor, and below us was where at that time they had kept some of the prisoners in solitary confinement or those who needed extra restrictions. And they would try to figure out who you were by your cell number or if they could find your name.
Chaos is a good way to describe it. It was a bustling place when it was operational. Live with inmates, live with voices, yelling, screaming.
When we went down them steps, the first floor, and we start going by these guys that say they want to fuck you, rape you, you're going to be my bitch in a cell. It's only going to cost me a carton of TMs, this and that. I looked up at the Lord, I said, I know the ways you raised me, Lord, but if anybody ever puts their hands on me, I says, I don't care what it takes, I'm going to kill them.
Hey, fat ass. You're gonna be dreaming about me. Talk to me, boy. While you're there, I can hear you breathing.
Now, I was 6'4", weighed 190 pounds. That's the scaredest I've ever been in my life. And I've been a lot of places because the stuff these guys yell and what they want to do to you, it's beyond belief.
Tell you what, I'll introduce you around, make you feel right at home. I know a couple of big old bull queers that just love to make your acquaintance, especially that big white mushy butt of yours.
They would call out your name, and very early on they began screaming things such as, you got to kill yourself and get it over with. You're not going to make it. You can kill yourself and get it over with now. And within a few hours, they started chanting, kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself. And it was as if the entire 6 floors on this side, every cell was chanting, kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself.
Where's fish? Where's fish? Where's fish? I don't want fish. I want to go home.
I took a tour through there and the people said, how was it in here? What was it really like? I said, I'll answer it to you in one word. They all looked at me. I said, it was fucked. Because a lot of people would take that word, oh, a nasty word and everything. But that one word encompasses everything that could have happened in there.
I think coming here sometimes sets my compass to let me know where I've been, where I'm at now. And I often, when I think about this place, I'm very grateful.
If I hear so much as a mouse fart in here the rest of the night, I swear by God and Sonny Jesus, you will all visit the infirmary.
They had a liaison officer who actually came to me at one point and said, do you want to sit down and talk to any of these guards? And I said, listen, I don't know if you've read this script, but the last thing you want me to do
is say that I base this on the Ohio State correctional officers, because I'm an awful, awful person.
I asked to be put in solitary confinement for a while and see what that felt like. And, you know, of course, you know, mine was just a sensorial experience. It wasn't really a truly life-altering, you know, I'm not going to tell you anything tremendously significant happened in there, because I always knew I was going to get out. But it gave me the opportunity to listen to what the sounds are and to get a feeling of what it must be like to live for this one little square of the outside, that's your life.
Mansfield was completely trashed when we moved in there. It had been decommissioned, I think, 2 years before, and I think every ex-con had come back and smashed something.
When the movie was made, the prison had been closed for a couple years. Actually, the making of the movie postponed a date with the Wrecking Ball.
Mansfield's a relatively small town. We don't have Hollywood here very often. They came into town. They were here for several months. They lived here. They became part of the community. The actors, the crew. You had a chance to actually watch them filming, because they would go downtown and film in the square and film along Main Street.
Everybody around town was excited about possibly being in the movie and possibly launching a career in Hollywood. So aspirations of being a movie star were abuzz all throughout Mansfield, Ohio.
Some call it a casting call, while others refer to it as a cattle call. The latter name may be more appropriate for Wednesday's audition for Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption.
I mentioned to the crew that I would like to have a little part in, and they said, well, sure, what would you like to do? I said, well, I'd like to play an inmate. So they finally came with the idea I was an inmate, but I wasn't in prison garb.
The casting call was scheduled from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., but due to the overwhelming turnout, no more names were taken after 3.
Hey, I think I got it already, man. It's just look at us. That's the way we act. It's just regular acting, man.
Reporting for WMFD, I'm Laurie Carto.
Now, also here, there are two very conspicuous large tubes. What are these?
Those are the actual escape tunnels that were used for Shawshank Redemption.
So this is the...
This is the one that Andy crawled through to freedom.
This is the sewage pipe.
Correct.
Andy crawled to freedom through 500 yards of shit-smelling foulness I can't even imagine.